In AD 439, Rome lost one province. The Vandals took North Africa. Rome lost its cash cow. That was tax income that fed and paid the entire army. Rome is losing money, losing power. It's falling. So the government does what a desperate government often tries: raise taxes back home. And then the dominoes really started to fall on the Western Roman economy. Because here's an economic law Rome is learning the hard way. You can double your tax rate and collect less tax than before. This lesson shows you the fall of Rome, the economic decline, squeezing your citizens, producing less. And the Western Roman economy, since the time of Alaric in 410 through the 5th century, it's declining. There's one honest reformer who's going to try and help, and we'll see that same type of debate and apply it to today's world. But I want to introduce you to a Roman family. They're holding on through this difficult time. They're holding on to the perfect gold coin. In a collapsing economy, this coin will stay strong. There is hope. I'm Mr. Hull. This is Ancient History. Welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where history reveals truth and wisdom for your journey through the Western Roman Empire as it's falling. This lesson is the economy. The money machine has failed the empire. We are at the end. And I want to hand you something from it. That would be a piece of wisdom, some economic understanding. This is Economics 101, some true laws, part of human nature, natural law. So by the end of this lesson, you'll know some economics. You'll know the economic laws that Rome broke, and you'll see maybe a way Rome could have prevented their own fall. And you could recognize a just concern. Do you care about your country? Do you have a righteous, clear-eyed concern for your own country's economy? Let's begin. If the Roman Empire was this 1,000-year hero, stronger, older, wiser than any throughout history and Western civilization, this has been a series of lessons about the fall of this hero with 5 ailments that are not being healed: division, defense, debt, death, and decay. This lesson is about the debt, the economic problems. This is lesson 70. And if you've examined this hero, you may say it's like anemic blood. The economic lifeblood is running thin, quietly draining away the life of the old Roman ways. The economic flow of money and goods and trade has been a big part of the success and story of the Romans. But the government struggled to pay their soldiers as the economy got worse. That means defenses are going to fail. As the defense fails, the borders are breached, the provinces are lost, and that hurts the government's treasury further. The division, the defense, greater debt, and a coming death. By the 5th century, Rome ran on 3 metals. You know these metals: the gold, the solidus. Constantine helped establish this consistent gold coin. 72 of them per Roman pound of gold. So 4.5 grams of gold. Trusted coin for centuries into the future. That's for taxes, that's for armies, and that's for ransom. The solidus never bought lunch. Below it was a new coin, the siliqua. The Roman denarius, long gone. It had a lot of problems in the previous century. So Constantine in AD 315 established this like a dime, like the Mercury dime. It has just a little bit of silver, between 1.3 grams and 3.4 grams. And that served as your high quality silver denomination for the later Roman Empire, trusted coins. And that's supposed to be a daily wage coin like the denarius was. It's the replacement after the silver wash swindle is over. At the very bottom, we have some small bronze coins now. It's called the numis, and that could buy your bread. So for hundreds of years, this daily wage coin, the denarius, now the siliqua, was for a daily wage, and it would break down into the smaller bronze coins like the sesterce, like the numis. One of those coins could buy your liter of cheap wine or your pound of hearty wheat. Maybe a simple meal. If you're coming here from lesson 62 in Pompeii, we saw the thermopolium. That's street food. It looks like places we eat at a lot today with big bowls of food. They throw it into a bowl. Street food would cost one of these bronze coins. And then you could spend a few hours in the public baths, a big part of Roman society, for one of these coins, the sesterces, the numis. And right there, that is an economic lesson. You work for one day, and you should have enough for your daily food, your wine, your bath, your basic needs. Well, here's an economic question. Who's running this? Who's in charge? The government is providing coins again. They learned their lesson after their debased currencies. And so the coins are solid. The Romans are not communist. They're not socialist. They're not commanding the economy. So this is the free market at play here. And it's life. Like, these are the basic needs of life. There's no single director of the economy. The government office, the treasury, who's minting these coins, the coin is established with the face of the emperor, the authority to pay the troops, the trust. Think about the government's role, like the road system and the coin system. They're two similar systems. The government could be strong and build the roads, the Roman roads, so important to Roman power. They moved the troops. They were literally designed to move troops regardless of the weather. They were well engineered, and it really helped trade. And coins are a similar way. It's like the road for a bigger economy, for more earnings, for efficient taxes and efficient transactions, so that coin will buy the food that you need each day. Think about on the other side. Maybe you were the day laborer doing a field job or a troop. You're in the military, you get your pay. But think about the economic choice of the bread baker. Again, with lesson 62 in Pompeii and Herculaneum, we have loaves of bread that were frozen in time instantly. They were in the oven, baking at the time that Mount Vesuvius halted life. It's an economic choice to bake bread. And they are baking the bread. They're grinding the wheat, baking the bread before anyone shows up to buy it. So you have an economic risk. You need to trust the coins. You need to trust that people will be hungry every day and that they will show up on the Roman road. Now, how does the government provide these road systems? We've learned this before. They're paving the roads. They're providing stable coins now. But now Rome needs tax. How does the Roman government get their tax? The Praetorian prefects ran a land tax. They collected as coins. They collected grain, by the way, oil, fodder, which is animal feed. They collected clothing. So in-kind gifts, not gifts, but payments, it's like currency. It's not really bartering. It kind of is. But the government was taking these commodities. Why do you think? They're taking grains and oils and animal feed. I want to make you a classical economics scholar. So think, animals are serving the military. The troops need food. And the metal itself, it doesn't feed anybody. It's just a road, an economic road. And so as taxes are collected, 80% of the Roman budget is for paying the military. Jump back to big lesson 20. Lesson 20, when coins were actually invented, and that economic lesson 20, consider what money actually means, what the true value is supposed to be. In Roman times, we go back to 211 BC, when the silver denarius was born. It was 97% silver. And skipping ahead by 268, AD 268, that successor coin had been pretty much ruined. So with Constantine's help, the economic road, the coins are trusted again. But now, in the AD 400s. 5th century Western Rome has economic problems. They're hanging on to some gold coins. So what is the issue, the economic issue? Well, if you're coming here from lesson 69, Barbarian Breach, the border breaches, specifically Alaric, the barbarian at the gate, Alaric in AD 410, he took a huge payment in 408. Rome had pushed him away and had offered him this payment. They had negotiated. He finally got 5,000 pounds of gold. That's tons. And on top of that, 30,000 pounds of the silver coins, 4,000 silk robes, 3,000 scarlet fleeces, 3,000 pounds of pepper. Pepper? Yeah, they said if you can't find it in Rome, it doesn't exist. Rome was an international trade. That pepper, those bags of pepper coming all the way from the Orient on the Silk Road, what we'll call the Silk Road. So Alaric is getting paid off. And so this payment, you can replenish it, right? You can just earn more. The Roman government settles with Alaric. The ton of spices, in addition to the pepper, if you think about curry powder, that's being shipped all the way from the Indian Ocean. It's being handed over as ransom. Is Rome going to be able to replenish these supplies? Alaric and his people, the Goths are going to migrate away, but the historian Zosimus records that Rome possessed no public stock after this. Alaric really depleted their treasury. So senators now are concealing their wealth. They're hiding it. They show signs of fear. The city's been stripped by Alaric, and they had to pay Alaric. Alaric controlled the port. Check out Ostia, the ruins of Ostia, Rome's port city. These miles that separate the coast from Rome, where at one time 1 million people lived. There's not enough grain around this area to feed all those people. So the port, Ostia, Portus, the harbor there, is incredibly important. And Alaric took it over, controlled it. I was blown away visiting this for the first time. These ruins are similar to Pompeii. They are extremely well preserved. Check out these commercial storage areas. You really feel like you're in a commercial complex, a commercial city that dates back thousands of years. Very strategic. And the shops, everything you would want in a Roman city, and the logistics, because they would have to load barges and ships and do it in the middle of the night so that supplies, like all the basic morning needs, would be ready in the market in Rome in time for the market day. But I digress. It's a great place to visit. But Alaric controlled this. He took it to stop the grain, to leverage this, and the treasures in Rome can't be eaten. The gold coins are only valuable if you can get Alaric out. You see why Rome is vulnerable. It's going to fall. All of the reasons for the fall of Rome are actually packed into one survey lesson, lesson 25, Ancient History Survey, one of Classical Kingdom's books, available on Amazon and classicalkingdoms.com. This online book has interactive. It's great for a homeschool family or early logic learners that need an entry point into ancient history. You feel like you've got gaps. That is more of a summary version. We have 5 exhibits, 5 case files to show. Exhibit 1, the silver coins that were found in a field in hoards. This one is a famous hoard in Hoxne, England. As the Romans were losing their power, we see the emperor's face on the coins in Britain, but edges of the coins are being shaved off, sheared away by a knife. The silver scraps are being scraped off. Why would you deface your money like this? Well, was there no new Roman money coming? The Rome power has retreated. The Romans are falling. These provinces were sending Rome taxes and gold and grain, And Rome would send back the Roman roads, the coins, the economic road. But it's falling. And by the time Rome was out of Britain, people were concerned. And we have these hoards being hidden. Hoxne hoard is just one of the famous ones. 14,272 silver coins in the Hoxne hoard. 98% had been clipped, scraping off pieces. Britain was making its own change off of the old silver coins. 569 gold solidi. That's 5.5 pounds of gold. Somebody buried this. Somebody lost that hoard for whatever reason, but people were concerned during the fall of the Roman economy. In Gaul, they went further. They started a knockoff coin again. No, the inferior Gallic solidus was smaller, of course. In Gaul, they were printing cheaper coins, minting their own membership card. These coins were the authority, the trust, and Gaul is undermining that trust. So Rome itself, even in the Palatine Hill, we would find the archaeologists have found similar evidence like this. Bronze being cut into halves and quarters, fragments. So the capital, right here in Rome, these coins show evidence that the Roman road, the coin system, something is being undermined. Something is undermining the trust. Case file number 2, starting in AD 418, Rome settles a lot of Visigoths, Burgundians, actual armed barbarian groups. They settle them on imperial land in exchange for military service. Handing over this land, they're kind of governing it themselves. And once you put an armed group of barbarians in charge of their own harvest, their own farming, do you see they're not going to be paying taxes to the Roman government, just supplying the protection. They're going to run their own classical kingdoms without the power of Rome, because Rome doesn't have the power it once had. This now means what the classical kingdoms of the barbarians are keeping for themselves is not being paid back to Rome. The paycheck, the cash cow. No new money coming in. Case file number 3, the stakes climb. Look at North Africa. In fact, coming from lesson 65, you heard these problems like Vandals and Barbarians in the West, which is why Constantine was moving east, safer and more secure. So what is it about North Africa? Well, it's like a cash cow. But in 429, the Vandals cross into Africa. By 439, Gaiseric, the Vandal leader, takes Carthage, and by AD 442, Gaiseric has kept the richest provinces, Proconsularis, Byzantina. These are the cash cows, the paychecks that Rome desperately needs, and they are now in the hands of the barbarian. The barbarian invasions were economic problems themselves. It's all interconnected. Rome no longer had claim on these tax revenues, which were very lucrative, and Rome's economy can't afford to pay troops. You wonder, why doesn't Rome have something new? The Western Roman Empire doesn't have a claim to a good source of money, so what do you do? What do you do to make up for the revenues from Numidia, Mauritania, which would amount to 73,600 solidi every single year in tax payments? How do you make this up? Case study number 4. Africa's cash cow is gone. No more paychecks, gold coming in, but the obligations are there. The soldiers need food. They need clothing. They need their wages. So the government raises taxes on people that are left to make up for this massive amount of money. Pay higher taxes. We know exactly how they did it. We saw that tax remissions were actually withdrawn. They had given some tax breaks to government leaders. That went away in AD 440. In AD 441, other tax privileges were taken back, like forgiveness of tax debts. So by AD 444, this brand new tax system included something like a sales tax in the marketplace. And in that sales tax law that affects everybody, they go ahead and say why. They come out and admit that they don't have the money to pay the troops, to feed them, to clothe them. It's part of the law. It's in the record. Higher taxes, canceling exemptions, new sales tax on everybody. What happens next? You know, what are people going to do when they're squeezed? They are the taxpayers who remain. Some will evade tax. Some abandon their land. Some bury their money, like the Hoxne Hoard, a working farm that is abandoned, like an empty field, is not going to produce any new tax money. It's not worth it for people to work and just lose all their money to taxes. That's an economic decision people have to understand. Like that bread baker who has to grind the wheat and bake the bread before knowing for sure anyone is ever coming to buy the bread for a fair price. It's eroding trust. You've lost faith in Rome's leadership. Now, some walk their harvest to a powerful patron and trade their tax bill for the local protection. It's starting to sound like feudalism, but collections are falling. The defense is weakening. Can't trust that you'll get paid for it. And more province territories slip. The tax bill is left for the survivors to keep paying. The tax rate climbs, and that does not equate to more yield. It's not revenue. You can double the demand that you rate, your tax rate, you can double it, and you could actually end up collecting less than before. There's an economic law that Art Laffer famously showed to President Reagan. The Laffer curve is an illustration of this economic law. And in retail, they call it more for less. It's kind of the opposite of overtaxing. But when stores sell more things at a smaller profit margin, they can do better. But we're not doing better in ancient Rome. We are doing worse. Another problem in the tax scheme is the skimmers, the collectors, the way they set up tax collection. It was easy for corruption. The tax collectors could falsify assessments. They could intimidate you and bully you into a higher payment than you were really supposed to. Families paid more than the treasury ever received because of corrupt tax collectors. What about that average Roman family trying to get by? The paterfamilias is trying to hold his family together. He's paid his taxes. He's harvested. He knows he's getting ripped off by the collectors. And he saw his neighbor already burying his coins, walking away from his land like the Hoxne Hoard. What do? Aristotle taught that this kind of righteous anger, this just concern can be done well, or you can extreme, one way, just shrug and go numb and not care. Or the other way, despise Rome so bad you want to rebel, you want to join a barbarian group and fight. But between them sits that just concern. You're kind of frustrated with the way the government is handling things. They've broken faith with you. They've broken trust. And this is when the 7th graders I would teach, they would say, this sounds like today. Look at the news headlines. Look at the division, the defense, the debts. Things go poorly with economy. We have enemies. We have border breaches. What do you see? So this could be an assignment for you right now, because kids love to talk about how this matters in today's world. As we move on into case file number 5, in AD 455, Emperor Valentinian III murdered, and almost immediately the Vandals look across. It's not very far from Carthage. The Vandals go. Gaiseric sails from Carthage and takes Rome down. Where do we get the word vandalize? Vandals vandalized. The Vandals stripped off the imperial regalia. They pried off half of the gilded bronze roof tiles from the Temple of Jupiter. One of the ships was loaded with statues and treasures. It actually sank in the crossing, but also Roman captives, Rome's skilled craftsmen, some of the working hands of the capital. These all impact the economy. And you've realized there's no replacing any of this. Rome doesn't have anything new coming in. We've lost the trade routes. Now, Vandals control these waters. They control Carthage. And Carthage is hostile. Obviously, the Vandals have just vandalized Rome. This disrupts the flow of African grain, the trade routes. So food is going to be a problem. And don't even think about the pepper and the spices. The connection to those luxury trade routes is cut, which means less trade. Like those shops, they're not selling the imported luxury exotic goods anymore. Rome is supposed to be fed by people from all over the Mediterranean, from grain all the way from the Black Sea, Egypt. But now they're stuck with much smaller markets, much more local goods, not international. After Gaiseric and the vandalism, we have one reformer who tries. He rises up to try to help. His name is Majorian. In AD 457, you can see his coin still has the grams, the 4.6 grams of gold. His reforms, first of all, stop the ridiculous taxes. So he tries to lower the taxes, try to give farmers a break who couldn't pay 10 years back. Like that family had to wait 10 years, but now maybe a tax break. Cancel back taxes. Just focus on this year's tax, please. Give us something. Reform step number 2, prosecute those corrupt tax collectors. Like try to bring trust back. Restore the community defender. They actually had a job who was supposed to oversee corrupt taxpayers. Now let's get that, stop the corruption. By AD 458, he had a third step, and that was a law against the Gallic solidus. Finally, get the coins trusted. Don't let Gaul make those small fake coins. But none of these helps the loss of the African cash cow. All that money is not getting replaced. So what do you do when you need to take North Africa's money again? Majorian builds a fleet to go and attack Africa to try to take Africa back. In AD 461, that fleet is destroyed. At New Carthage, Carthago Nova in Spain, that fleet never had a chance. They paid for the fleet. They built it. It was destroyed before it ever even sailed. So within months, Majorian loses his job. He loses his life, violently removed. The reforms die. With that reformer's death, African Vandals stay in control. And if we skip ahead to AD 468, one last attempt. East and West kind of unite. They try to go back against Gaiseric and the Vandals, led by Commander Basiliscus. They anchor off Cape Bon. And when night came, so did fire ships out of the dark, somehow burned this fleet. Ancient historian Procopius put the cost of this entire operation at 9,360,000 solidi. If that's exact, that seems really high, but there's no money to pay for the second fleet. No new money is coming in. We have big problems here. And by AD 472, it almost looks like a civil war. So ask yourself, when your own government is breaking faith, breaking trust, what could happen? What do you do with your concern? There's fallout happening, and as we get closer to lesson 71, that fallout will involve the civil war. The soldiers in Italy are unpaid by this Roman machine. What are they going to get paid by? But the failed economy is just part of the story. Too few people trusted what was left. The coins were still actually perfect, the gold solidus, but the income wasn't there. The division, the defense, the debt, the death of the throne, and later the decay. Today's lesson, you understood the debts, the economy that fell more than 1,500 years ago, but the lesson didn't fall. You can still use it. That's what makes a kingdom classical, how long its lesson lasts, and making you a classical economics scholar, one kingdom at a time, learning how to think and what to do with this wisdom. Do you have a just concern for what's happening in today's economy? Do you see a path to rise up in strength or to fall? All of these lessons are waiting for you. They all go together. ClassicalKingdoms.com helps give you the full picture of the falling Roman government and the rise of the Roman government. It's all there. And we are standing at the deathbed next in lesson 71. But it's a hero that has been with us for quite a while. Rome is not lasting forever, but has given us an incredible legacy in Western civilization. Thank you for taking the time to learn something that matters in all of history, and that includes your journey. Because kingdoms rise and fall, power fades, but virtue endures.